I'm originally born and raised from Dallas, Texas. And growing up, I did not know anything about the church or about God. I've been through abuse as a child. I've gone through drugs and just any kind of struggle that has to deal with depression, anxiety, and feeling like I'm not loved, low self-esteem, many things. If it's painful, then I probably went through it. And it was a really, really heavy burden until I came to know the Lord. It took me about a couple years. When I turned 16, my aunt, she had invited us to Pathway, but I was like, why are we even going? Like, there's no reason why we should be going. Again, I didn't know anything about God or about the church, so to me it was very irrelevant. And at 18, my grandfather passed away, and I was quick to drop out of college. I was quick to quit my job and just get myself up and leave to Mexico. I was gone for about 2.5 weeks, and the entire time my depression hit me like it had never hit me before. I came back home and I got severely sick. I didn't ever want to come out of my bedroom. And I remember one day I was laying in bed and I said, God, if you're real, make yourself known to me. And sure enough, within 2 weeks, he just confirmed to me something that I never would have thought for myself. And turns out I was pregnant, and I was not married, but to me that was a blessing because I had just lost my grandpa, who was my best friend, and I was about to have this baby who came in and just turned my whole world around. And I look at him now and I'm very grateful, not only to God, but to my son, who carries a lot of the same personality traits that my grandfather does. And I know that only God could have done what he did through my Noah. And I'm just very, very thankful that he did that. And after that, I strayed, but I always held on to the thought and the idea that God was actually real. I was in a relationship with my son's father, and it didn't go as I planned or as I wanted it to go for my life or for my family. But I had to believe and I had to trust that the will of God was perfect and that he knew exactly what he was going to do for me and for Noah. And it took the biggest fall down and all the scrapes and all the bruises to finally be like, I cannot do this without God. There is no way that I could have lived through everything that I went through, suffered through everything that I suffered with, and be here today and be able to stand here in joy, knowing that had it not been for the strength of God, I couldn't have done it. And I'm just very thankful that he was able to leave his flock to come find me and pull me into his loving arms. I remember sitting on my bedroom and just asking myself, God, where do I go from here? I had just gone through a terrible night, and he had just confirmed his love for me, and I was ready to press in. I knew that I couldn't do it alone, so I looked for a church. And when I logged into Facebook, a video of one of Pathway's live stream was coming on, and I just felt the urge in my heart pulling to click on it. So I went ahead and started watching. And I'll never forget, Pastor Danny was talking about how to overcome the hard situations. And we were going through the pandemic at the time, and I had just broken up with my son's father. So for me, it was a hard time. I went through miscarriage, and I overcame alcoholism, and it was heavy, but I knew that I wasn't alone anymore. And Pathway made an announcement in October or September that they were gonna open their doors up again in October. And I was so quick to mark it on my calendar, set an alarm. I knew that I wanted to be there, and I knew that that's the only place that I needed to go. I didn't understand why at the time, because I lived in Irving and Pathway was about 25-30 minutes away from me, but I was dedicated and I knew that that's where the Lord was leading me. And sure enough, October, I believe it was the first Sunday, and I walked through those doors and I immediately just began to cry. I didn't understand why, but the people were so welcoming and so loving. I mean, these ladies standing in the hallway who greet you didn't even know me, and they hugged me and they were like, "We're so happy that you're here, you know, like it brings us so much joy that you're here, like it's gonna be such a good day, like everything's gonna be okay." And I knew immediately that only the Holy Spirit could have done that. Only God could have brought me to this church who was so far away from me, and I didn't know why, but I had to trust in the Lord, and I'm very thankful that I did, because Pathway has impacted my life in the most tremendous ways. Pathway has given me the opportunity to really press into who God is. Pathway has given me a family, one that I didn't know I needed, but they stand beside me and I couldn't do life without them. And had it not been for them, I wouldn't have grown in the spiritual ways that I have grown since my salvation. I remember the first time Brother John Jones came up to me. I was sitting in the pews all alone. I was a newbie, and he was like, "Hey, I want you to be a part of the greeters team." And I was like, no, there's no way. Like, I didn't like people before, but little did I know God was changing that around for me. And that sermon that day was about opening up to new opportunities. So as soon as service ended, I ran to him and I opened up to that opportunity. I allowed God to move through me, and I know that he could have only done it at Pathway. Since then, I have grown into different areas of ministry, but along the way, God has really revealed to me through my family at Pathway, and the teachings and my pastors and the impacts that everybody has had on me, that my heart is to serve our youth. I wouldn't have been able to step into this calling had it not been for all the pourings and all the prayers and all the blessings that people have poured over me and over my son and over our life. I know that only the Holy Spirit, who dwelled so heavily inside of Pathway, could have moved these mountains that I created for myself. And I wouldn't have been able to overcome this insecurity and this low self-esteem and this unbelief for myself, and I wouldn't have been able to give God the opportunity to move in my life had I not allowed my family at Pathway to truly just alter my life. God moving through them onto me has been such a blessing, and I couldn't have done it without them, and I'm thankful for each and every one of them, because I know that it's God in them that moves, and it's truly, truly so powerful just to see how one can come to know the Lord, and then how the Lord can just turn their life around for such a greater good. The Bible tells us that His will is beautiful and perfect, and I'm holding on to that. I mean, I believe that everything that I've been through was because of who He calls me to be, and I know that I need my family at Pathway and those who love me to be able to have courage and to have strength to step into what the Lord has for me and for my son.